Hi, everyone. This is Kumar Danachan again with another episode of our Agile Short Series. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about giving knowledge workers a leading role. So with me is my good friend, Issame El Kharbili.
Kharbili.
I got him. I should have practiced the name before I said it.
You'll end up
Issame
getting
El
it.
Kharbili. It's a great name. It's a great guy, someone I've known now for a couple of years through our association with the in the Xscale community. I'm going to turn it over to Issame. Please introduce yourselves to the audience and things that you're working on recently or now.
Yeah, we'll gladly do that. Hello, everyone. I'm Issame El Kharbili, and I am CEO and founder of a consulting firm called WOMAT, whose main mission is to help organizations align profitability and fulfillment at work, which brings us to the subject of today's main topic.
Can you just indulge me and tell? I know you told me the story, and I thought it was a good one. The name of your company, WOMAT. What does that mean?
Yeah, WOMAT is a Wolof word, which is a dialect from Senegal, and it means at the core, embarking in a journey, transforming, and helping cross through the journey. That's when you spell the T as well, when you call it WOMAT. When you call it just WOMA, which in French we tend to forget the T, it's called Call Me.
It's called what again?
Call Me. Call Me.
Call Me. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a
call me to help you cross in your journey.
All right, I might be doing some of that with you, Issame. All right, so tell us about this topic. What this is your idea, giving knowledge workers a leading role. What does that mean?
First, I would like to settle the term knowledge workers. What does it mean? At the origin, if we stick to the basics, knowledge workers mean applying knowledge in your work. And we tend to use it for professions where knowledge is your main asset. For instance, engineers, accountants, lawyers, and stuff like that. But in the world we live in, we tend to need to apply our knowledge and our thinking, problem-solving techniques in every profession right now, and it's becoming more and more broader.
Yeah, that's a really good definition, and something actually we stress a lot at Agile Meridian in our most of our courses. The discussion around what knowledge work is and what knowledge workers are like, and a shift from Tayloristic thinking, right, and scientific management that sort of was the basis and still sometimes seems to be the basis of how companies are organized. Would you agree with that? And can you tell us a little bit more about Taylorism and how that impacts?
In fact, it really comes from Taylorism in the start and the dawn of the 19th century, when Taylor was creating his concept, scientific management, which the core principle of scientific management is there is one best way to do things. And in order to define this best way to do things, what he did is think, define, and set each task that people that are working in the factory needed to accomplish, and the way they needed to accomplish it, structure it, define it, and then distribute it to the workers. So this had the effect that this had is divide the company in two parts: people who are doing the thinking and people who are applying the results of the thinking. And that's how we came up with this concept of knowledge workers. That's the story of it, or at least that's how I know it.
So what you're saying that the knowledge workers in a Tayloristic model were the managers because they had the knowledge.
Exactly.
Right. And the people that were doing the work did not have the knowledge. They were more applying that knowledge based on a set of tasks that they had to accomplish, tasks that were defined for them by someone else. And so they didn't have to use their brains at all. They just had to follow a recipe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what the effect that this had in the 19th century, when this was applied at broader level, at the level of the whole factories, is people had made strikes, because it tended to remove their expertise and the craftsmanship from the way they were doing things, because there were other people who are thinking in their place and defining how they should do the work. And exactly, that's how consultants and managers came up.
Yeah, right. So that you don't have to know, you don't have to have a deep understanding of the role. You just have to follow the instructions, and anyone can, with some training, anyone can do the work, right? So that deep expertise, that sort of expertise that's born from experience and education and knowledge, was limited to a few people, and the workers, the majority of the workforce, didn't have to know it. And really, when you think about the Industrial Revolution, early 19th century, it was a huge productivity gain, wasn't it? Right?
Exactly. And in fact, this did the job, in fact, because it reduced the cost of creating goods. But the question is this still okay for the world that we live in? Because at the time when this was brought to light, this concept, I would say we were living in a linear world, right? The consequences, when you define an action, the outcome of this action was very clear. And for companies, they were imposing their product on the customers. Right. Now there is a shift where it's the customers that are imposing their needs on the organizations, and the organizations have no other way of existing other than to address those needs. Because today, you, as a customer, you have a choice. If you're not satisfied with the service that is brought to you by a company, what do? You will change.
You go somewhere else.
Exactly. So, and the customers live in an ecosystem. They're not alone anymore. You can't just impose something on them. They live in an ecosystem, and they want the product they are using or the services they are using to be interactive and interact with different other services. And they improve daily, and their needs evolve daily with their needs. So you need to be able to address it right when your customers identify or communicate to you their needs, and they communicate it a different way, either by calling your call center and how do you call it?
Well, I mean, there's so many ways that customers can let you know that they're not happy with the product, and
exactly.
the most impactful is just they don't buy your product anymore, right? They leave.
That's the extreme way.
Social media, they leave message on Yelp. You know, if you're running a service-oriented business that depends on customer interaction, your ratings go down, and then people read those ratings and they don't come to you, right? Of course, the inverse is true. The inverse is people love the services you provide, and they tell others about the services you provide and the products you provide. And so other people are drawn to your product because it's got so much buzz around it, you know, like Apple back in the mid 2000s, and Tesla in the 2012, 2013, 2014, even today, right? Tesla is such a great story of consumer support of their products. They've grown exponentially without really any marketing, and that's just because the people are enamored by this company, and they want the product. It's so different from any other car that's out there. And that's kind of the world we live in, right? It's a VUCA world where things are really volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous from a organizational perspective. And so I think the premise is that Taylorism doesn't quite work in this environment, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one other variable that we might be missing is instantaneous. They need, and when they manifest a need, they need to be instantly addressed. So there's the timing as well. And if you don't do it in the time window that they are expressing or the limit of their tolerance, they will just move up. And that's
Right.
an extreme way to manifest your client's dissatisfaction.
Right. And so the title of our talk, of course, is giving workers, knowledge workers, a leading role. And the premise is that in today's environment, everyone is a knowledge worker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And why is that? Why is everyone a knowledge worker?
Let me give you an example. You are in a call center, right? And the way we use to work is you gave me a script, and I will run the script, and I will sell you the service or the good, and that's it, right? Now, there is so many variables that can change during your call, and if you don't know how to react to this call, then you won't be selling me anything. For instance, one variable can be the mood. If you catch me as a customer in a bad mood, doesn't matter how good your service or your good is, I won't buy it because I will start shouting at you. Or so you need to be able to address this bad mood, calm me down, and then sell me, and then get back to your real objective, and then sell me something. Same thing happens for waiters, for instance, in a restaurant, right? You need to be able, your job is not only to serve clients, but let's say, for instance, you're in a day where the restaurant is full. You need to do some prioritization, right? You can deprioritize people who are in a group because you might say that they are in a group, they can chat while they're waiting. So I'm gonna prioritize someone who is in a date, for instance. I identify that they're in a date, so I need to be extra careful with them so I can prioritize the way I serve my clients. And this is knowledge, right? This is analysis, people behaviors analysis. This is so many things. You can even apply NLP principles and interact with people either in a call center or in a restaurant on many different ways. So knowledge workers, we need them more and more in every profession.
That's interesting.
And this is and why is this? Because today your main unique value proposition needs to be different. You need to deliver it differently. Before, we were focusing on the price. So you can just start a price war and you will win it if you are selling your goods at the lowest minimal lowest price, right? Mm-hmm. Now people are looking for more. They're judging the quality of service. They're judging the how clean your restaurant, how does it look like, the space between tables. They are looking for different things. So the way you deliver your value is more and more complex.
Yeah, and you're really, what you're talking about is really empowering the workforce to, push the decision making down to the people that are actually in front of the customers. Rather than give them a script, you're saying, let's give them some responsibility. Let's give them some accountability. Let's treat them like people, not like horses, and let them make decisions because they know the work better than we do. They understand, or we hope that they understand the customers better than we do. Let's give them training to develop those skills that where they can empathize with the customer and have good conversations with the customers, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you a little story. Before I got into Agile and before I got into professional coaching, I used to run restaurants. I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to run restaurants, and my waiters, I never gave them a script. I mean, I did what you're talking about, is really empower them to deliver an experience. and really understand the menu and why we put certain things on the menu on the days that we put them on, and make sure they understood the specials and they understood the entertainment that was coming in on the weekends, and to upsell that, hey, come back on Friday, we have live jazz night or whatever it might be. And our restaurants are really successful because the experience that our customers got was better than other restaurants, right? And the food was good, the experience was good, and they had something that they could talk to their friends about. And so I didn't realize at the time, I've never used really strict job descriptions as a restaurant manager, and even later on as my career in IT and as an IT manager. I mean, I was like always modifying job descriptions, but I always felt like there was something wrong about job descriptions, that it was too much of a box, right? It limits people's potential. What do you think about that?
Yeah, let me first. I have a quote that I like pretty much. If market is a war, time is a mercenary. He can either kill for you or kill you. So yeah. The best way is to
is that your quote?
Have an win. Can be, but don't tell it to anyone. But and in all that you have it with you, you need to give your people the way to make decisions, and instantly, bam, 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 bam. In a situation, they need to think fast and act. That's how you add speed to your core capabilities, right? And to do that, they need to think not about their job, but their responsibility. And we tend to use a lot in our professional context this concept, think out of the box, right? Mm-hmm. So my way of when people tell me this, I tend to answer by, okay, if you want people to think out of the box, just remove the box. And in this context, what is the box? It is their job description, because their job description tend to describe everything they need to do, the skills they need to have, and the way they apply it, and how much experience do they have applying or improving this expertise. But in the kind of situation that we are talking about, it's not about just my expertise. It's about anything that is needed to help me address or achieve the outcomes or the goals that was defined for me or defined for the organization. For instance, if we talk about the examples that we had before the restaurant, or let's give another example. Let's say we are in a mall, right? Mm-hmm. And your job, for instance, is a cashier. You are here to make your people pay, your customers pay, and that's it. Okay. When you see something that is wrong in the shop, clothes that are misplaced, or there is disorder somewhere in the shop, you will say, okay, this is not my job, someone else will do it, right? And you don't want that. You want your customers to have the best experience possible to the best of your capabilities, right? So when we talk about the responsibility, your responsibility, if we say that your responsibility is to make the customers have the best experience. When you say something that is wrong, you will just do it because this is also your responsibility, right? And this is why I tend to say, don't put your people in a box where you say, this is your job, tak, 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 tak. I will say, this is your responsibility, and we can have different responsibilities for different members of the team, or just one. Sometimes we don't need more than one responsibility.
So you're basically saying get rid of the job description and move more to these responsibility descriptions, right?
Yeah. And why is that? Because there are a lot of problems with the job descriptions. The main one is So let's say that we talked about the VUCA world that we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in a VUCA world, things evolve very quickly, and we don't have time to change the job descriptions because it's very, very complicated due to different legal constraints. And for instance, when you want to change someone's job description, you either renegotiate the contract with him, or you need to negotiate with the workers' union, for instance,
Right.
to say the least. Second problem is when you, let's say you are in a context where you don't need a job anymore, a job description, for instance, someone to reorder this, to rearrange the stuff inside the shop. What do? You need to define something else, recruit people, or negotiate with someone who lost his job to negotiate with him if he can do this new job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is costly in terms of time, in terms of money, and this has a lot of negative impact. And because you need things to change quickly, this is blocking you. This is the main impediment.
Right.
So when we talk about responsibility description, this doesn't exist anymore because the responsibility is there. It's just that you need different skills, and that's it. So what is the best way to acquire these new skills? That's a different question that we can talk about later.
Well, maybe it'd be good to sort of show what you're talking about, right? So the difference between a job description and a responsibility description, as displayed here, right? The job description it almost seems kind of Tayloristic in a way, doesn't it? Because it kind of lists all the things that are expected from the person to do, right? And down to quite specific, right? Collecting and accounting of revenue at the end of the day, shelving of products and installation of the sales area. That's the main mission, monitoring of the stock levels of different things in the store. So if something occurs outside of these things that are listed, that's not their responsibility anymore. It's not their job. It's not in their job description. So why would they have to do it? Right. And of course, contrasting that with the responsibility description on the right, it's ensure each client has an unrivaled experience with the brand, ensure the safety of the environment, right? For me, for my colleagues, and for people that are coming in the store. And then the values, right? I believe in the client over the brand, over the shop, and over the team over. I don't know what that means exactly, but I think I know what that means.
I will explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
In fact, this is work that we are doing with some of our clients to help them move from job descriptions to responsibility descriptions. And for responsibility descriptions, there are two different parts. The responsibilities, define them for me, for my colleagues, for the customers or the people that I serve. What does it mean to have a responsibility towards them? And the values that I need to identify myself with when I engage in a job, right? And this, to make it clear when you join an organization, what you need to believe in. And that's clear right from the start. You don't discover things that you don't identify yourself with afterwards, because this creates dishonesty between you as a member of the organization and the rest of the organization. So for this example, this means that I believe in clients, so I prioritize client or customers over anything else. And right after the clients comes the brand. So first, I prioritize the need and the interest of my customers, then the brand, then the shop, because your brand can have multiple shops. So I prefer to address the brand before the shop.
Sure.
And after the shop, there's the team that I work with, people that I work with, and then me as an individual. So this is the value that I need to identify myself with when I accept this job.
That's really powerful. But for someone coming in as a salesperson, how do they know? I mean, yes, these are my main responsibilities, but these are so broad. And I would think that you would need to include some of the things that they are, what's their scope, right? Are they in the sales department? Are they in the janitorial department? Are they, where do they work where they can apply these things?
Let me give you an example. You have your own objectives, yearly objectives, right? And there is the objectives, collective objectives for the team.
Mm-hmm.
So if I identify that the contribution of what I am doing to the objectives of the team is less than my colleague's objective, then I will deprioritize mine and help him achieve the objective, because it will help the team reach the collective objective before getting back to my own objective. This is the what this value mean. And same thing can be applied between the team and the shop, between the shop and the brand, between the brand and the customers.
This is really powerful, Issam, and it's very much in alignment with some work that I'm doing with somebody Shel Torre, with the tight, lose, tight leadership pattern. And so leaders define sort of the goals and objectives in the top level tight. It's loose in the middle in terms of how employees, the workers, accomplish those goals and the mission of the company or the brand or the department or the division or the team. And it's tight again in how measurements are applied and how feedback is given. And it requires a really a mindset shift from management and leadership, right? To move away from I'm the decision maker for most things, and I'm going to make sure that I define all the jobs that people do, to I'm a coach. As a leader, I'm a coach, and I'm going to help my team, my people, achieve these outcomes by coaching them, by guiding them, by making sure we have regular conversations and enhancing the knowledge of my knowledge workers. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. It is no easy task to move from the left side of this slide to the right side. And you don't manage teams the same way when the tasks that they need to accomplish are very clear to when things are very foggy. This is not a box. This is just, it just describes the environment that you need to evolve in, right? And the way you manage people, the way you lead people to find their purpose inside something that is so not constrained, so how can I say?
Well,
movable. It is movable.
Exactly. Because you have to be responsive to market changes,
exactly.
Right? Or even if you're a small team that serves other teams, it's your customers or maybe the other teams, or indirectly the customer out there as a whole. And so you have to be very responsive to those changes. And so defining everything really strictly keeps you in a box and makes it really hard for teams to adapt, right?
Yeah. And if you manage them the old ways, you will just guide them towards the path that you see. And you don't want that anymore, because you will getting back to what you did before. You need to help them just find like the North Star, and they will find the way. And this is a completely different way of managing stuff. And yeah, you don't do it right from the start. You need some coaching and some help. That's for sure.
Right, and to that end, this is kind of what we do, right? Is help organizations move from really a more traditional mindset management styles to more. You look at the companies that are successful today. They probably don't have really long and detailed job descriptions. They're probably more on on the right side of that image, you know, the what we're talking about, the responsibility descriptions, as you call it. It's more like this than it is like this. And you look at, you know, Amazon and Apple and Netflix and these companies that are super successful and very much in tune with their customers, are not treating their employees like horses. They're treating them like people with brains who can think for themselves. And what we do is, I'm sure you'll agree, is help start shifting the needle, right? And coaching people, leaders, to be more like coaches, adopt a more coaching style of leadership.
Mm.
So, a couple of things. I'll leave some links in the bottom to a talk we did earlier on tight, loose, tight. Actually, we have a meetup coming up in a couple of weeks that examines the difference between OKRs, objectives with key results, and tight, loose, tight, some of the similarities and some of the differences. And I wonder, Issam, if I can share your information as well, right? So people can reach out to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
All
course.
right, awesome. And I'm also thinking that if we can leave a little leave behind, maybe a infographic or something that sort of the principles behind this, right? Moving from job descriptions to responsibility descriptions, and maybe some samples that we can leave them. Would you be open to doing that with me and developing
absolutely.
something? Awesome.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, we'll have more.
This is my passion, so I'm really happy to work on this stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really passionate about this, and this is something that can make a real difference within organizations, right? And really empower your workers to take responsibility for their actions and really improve the bottom line and the top line for the company, right? So with that, any parting thoughts before we end our agile medium? It's more of a medium than a short.
For me, first thing is, when you hear people in your organization talking about this is, or saying something like, "This is not my job. I can do this, but I need a raise," and stuff like that, you need to shift the way you define the work and the way you manage people. That's for sure. It's becoming an emergency. Second thing, when you want to move towards responsibility descriptions, you need to have, or to define, a clear idea what kind of outcomes you expect. What is your purpose? What is the purpose of the team? What is the outcomes? Because sometimes you ask people in in different organizations, and it's kind of fun for me, because you hear some answers that are completely insane. What is the purpose of your company? They will tell you, make money.
Yeah.
And that's sad, because the company is not there just to make money. We need some kind of impact. That's the drivers that we need in order to be more creative, more trust our intuition, experimenting and stuff like that. So we need to know where we are going and where we want, or where our organization want to go. So you need to have a clear purpose for the organization, for your team and department. And once you define that, then you can talk about what kind of responsibilities we want to have in our team in order to achieve the work needed to accomplish the purpose, or to go towards our purpose. To give you an example, for the shop, for instance, that we talk. Sorry if I'm talking too much, but just to make it clear for people. In a shop, for instance, you will need to have a responsibility toward the customers, a responsibility toward making the finance, for instance, a responsibility to address the finance, all the financial stuff, and another responsibility, for instance, to deal with the suppliers and make sure that the shop won't be empty or won't spend the day empty, because if it's empty, then the financial guys will come crying out loud.
Right. And we did talk about this, sort of these three major buckets, and where people may fall into. And of course, it's kind of a Venn diagram, isn't it? Because people need to be aware, even if their main responsibility is towards customer experience, they still need to be aware of the financial side of things. They need to be aware of the supplier side of things. And they may not have decision-making authority there, but they need to be aware of it so they can be more knowledgeable for their customers. So I totally agree. And I think that if I hearken back to my days as a restaurant person, you know, my front of the house staff, my wait staff, my hosts and hostesses, and my maitre d's, and all those folks, they were responsible for the customer experience, but they also had a knowledge of what we had in stock. You know, how many of the specials that we had at any given time during the course of the dinner shift, so that they were aware of the supplier constraints, right? Supplier being stuff that comes out of the back of the house, the kitchen. And they were aware of our overall financial position, you know, what our food cost was, what our labor cost was, what our profitability was, most importantly, what our customers were saying about us, because it had a direct impact on our top line sales, right? Is if our customer service was great, then more people were coming in because they were hearing about the great experiences that their friends had, and it drove our top line sales. Which, when you start to drive top line sales, it really masks a lot of things for you on the bottom line, right? You make more money. That's just a given. And so if you focus on your people, you focus on your customers, things get taken care of. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, you are raising a really important point, which is we don't want to make this swim lanes, because we are just creating new boxes, right? So we want people to dance between these responsibilities, given the needs of the moment, right? And if I want to move from a customer experience responsibility toward a financial responsibility, I need to be able to do it, because we really don't want to create new boxes in a different shape. That's absolutely not the purpose of it. And that's how we create people with, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of T-shaped profiles, M-shaped profiles, P-shaped profiles, and stuff like that. But my guess is this is a different topic for another day.
Yes, we should sign off, because we're at 37 minutes. And for those of you still with us, thank you so much for watching, and please leave your comments. As I mentioned, we'll share some more information in the thread below for some of the other events. And Issame, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to have you back in here so we can continue this conversation.
Thank you, Kumar, for having me.
Yep.
Thank you, Kumar, for having me. It's a really pleasure. And yeah, I will gladly come back to talk about this more.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and we will see you next time.